Just to bring you up to speed, at the end of chapter 60, everything was revealed and the secret came out at last. Smike was Ralph's own son. The son he had hidden away and arranged for Brooker to dispose of. Brooker had confessed everything. He admitted that he had taken the child, then about 4 years old, and in Ralph's absence, on some evil scheme to make money, had kept him temporarily in the garret of Ralph's own home in Golden Square. And then, on Ralph's return 6 weeks later, he had taken the boy to that place of cruelty and abuse, Dotheboys Hall in Yorkshire, to experience the tender mercies of Mr. and Mrs. Squeers. It was Brooker who had named him Smike and had paid the requisite annual fee of £20 for 6 years. After this, however, he'd fallen out with Ralph Nickleby and saw no reason to go on paying the fee. This meant that Smike, who would by then be 10 years old, because no money was forthcoming for his bed and board, such as it was used and abused like a drudge, little better than a slave, at the behest of the worthy Mr. and Mrs. Squeers. Brooker tried to express some regret at what he had done, although he knew there was nothing that could excuse or alter it. He had been obliged himself to go abroad to escape the consequence of his own criminal activities, and had returned after 8 years, and he wondered what had happened to the boy, then of course 18. He found out that he'd run away from Dotheboys Hall in the company of a young man with the same name as his father, Nickleby. Anxious now to find out all he could and hoping to use the information against Ralph, he had discovered that Smike was dying and that he was cared for by the young man with whom he had run away. Although they didn't know it, of course, they were first cousins. And so their closeness was explained by ties of blood as well as of friendship. Brooker had seen Smike, and Smike, to his horror, had seen and recognised him. But with Nicholas at his side, he had found peace at last, just before his death. What effect all this had on Ralph Nickleby we must wait to discover. When he knew that Smike, his only son, was dead, he didn't stay to hear more, but left the company of Brooker and the Cheeryble brothers and went out into the night, very much as Judas left the Last Supper on the night Jesus was betrayed. In chapter 61, Dickens describes the reaction of the rest of the little group of family and friends to the news of Smike's death. But before I read it, here are a few reminders of a romantic nature. You will remember that Nicholas is madly in love with Madeline, the girl he had rescued from his uncle and Arthur Gride. And you may remember, too, that Nicholas' sister Kate is quietly in love with Frank Cheeryble, who is madly in love with her. However, Nicholas and Kate are convinced that no progress towards marriage could ever be made by either party, because Nicholas and Kate were poor, and Frank and Madeline are both in line to inherit a fortune. So marriage is out of the question, and Nicholas and Kate must resign themselves to being brother and sister, bachelor and spinster, living together in endless, genteel, broken-hearted poverty. Little did they know of what awaited them. Chapter 61. On the next morning, after Brooker's disclosure had been made, Nicholas returned home. The meeting between him and those whom he had left there was not without strong emotion on both sides, for they had been informed by letters of what had occurred, and besides, his griefs were theirs. They mourned with him the death of one whose forlorn and helpless state had first established a claim upon their compassion, and whose truth of heart and grateful earnest nature had every day endeared him to them more and more. "I am sure," said Mrs. Nickleby, wiping her eyes and sobbing bitterly, "I am sure I have lost the best, the most zealous, the most attentive creature that has ever been a companion of mine in my life. Putting you, my dear Nicholas, and Kate, and your poor papa, and the well-behaved nurse who ran away with the linen, the 12 small forks, out of the question, of course, of all the tractable, equal-tempered, attached, and faithful beings that ever lived, I believe he was the most so. To look round upon the garden now, that he took so much pride in, or to go into his little room, and fill it filled with so many of those little contrivances for our comfort that he was so fond of making, and made so well, and so little thought that he would leave unfinished. I can't bear it. I cannot, really." While Mrs. Nickleby, with the utmost sincerity, gave vent to her sorrows, she was not the only one who indulged such feelings. Kate, although well accustomed to forget herself when others were to be considered, could not repress her own grief. Madeline was scarcely less moved than she, and poor, hearty, honest little Miss La Creevy, who had come down upon one of her occasional visits while Nicholas was away, and had done nothing since the sad news arrived but console and cheer them all, no sooner beheld him coming in at the door that she sat herself down upon the stairs, and bursting into a flood of tears, refused for a long time to be comforted. "It hurts me so," cried the poor body, "to see him come back alone. I can't help thinking what he must have suffered himself. I wouldn't mind so much if he gave way a little more, but he bears it so manfully." "Why so? I should," said Nicholas. "Should I not?" "Oh, yes, yes," replied the little woman, "and bless you for a good creature. But this does seem at first to a simple soul like me. I know it's wrong to say so, and I shall be sorry for it presently. This does seem such a poor reward for all that you have done." "Nay," said Nicholas gently, "what better reward could I have than the knowledge that his last days were peaceful and happy, and the recollection that I was his constant companion, and was not prevented, as I might have been by 100 circumstances, from being beside him when he died." "To be sure," sobbed Miss La Creevy, "it is very true, and I am an ungrateful, impious, wicked little fool, I know." With that, the good soul fell to crying afresh, and endeavouring to recover herself, tried to laugh. The laugh and the cry, meeting each other thus abruptly, had a struggle for the mastery. The result was that it was a drawn battle, and Miss La Creevy went into hysterics. Waiting until they were all tolerably quiet and composed again, Nicholas, who stood in need of some rest after his long journey, retired to his own room, and throwing himself, dressed as he was, upon the bed, fell into a sound sleep. When he awoke, he made his way without delay to the counting-house of the Cheeryble brothers, and presented himself before Tim Linkinwater. "Ah, Mr. Nickleby!" cried Tim. "God bless you! How do you do? Well? Oh, say, quite well, and never better. Do now." "Quite," said Nicholas, shaking him by both hands. "Ah," said Tim, "you look tired, though. Now I come to look at you. Hark! There he is. Do you hear him? That was Dick the Blackbird. He hasn't been himself since you'd gone away. He never got on without you. Now he takes as naturally to you as he does to me." "Dick is a far less sagacious fellow than I supposed him to be, if he thinks I am half so well worthy of his notice than you," replied Nicholas. "Well, I tell you what, sir," said Tim, standing in his favourite attitude and pointing to the cage with the feather of his pen. "It's very extraordinary about that bird. The only people he ever takes the smallest notice of are Mr. Charles, Mr. Ned, and you, and me." Here Tim stopped and glanced anxiously at Nicholas. Then, unexpectedly catching his eye, repeated, "And you and me, sir, and you and me." And then he glanced at Nicholas again, and squeezing his hand, said, "I am a bad one at putting off anything I am interested in. I didn't mean to ask you, but I should like to hear a few particulars of that poor dear boy. Did he mention Cheeryble brothers at all?" "Yes," said Nicholas, "many and many a time." Oh, that was right of him," returned Tim, wiping his eye. "That was very right of him." "And he mentioned your name a score of times," said Nicholas, "and often bade me carry back his love to Mr. Linkinwater." No, did he though?" rejoined Tim, beginning to sob. Poor fellow! I wish we could have had him buried in town. There isn't such a burying ground in all London as the one on the other side of the square. There are the counting houses all around it, and you go in there on a fine day, and you can see the books and safes through the open windows. And he sent his love to me, did he? I didn't expect he would have thought of me. Poor fellow! His love, too." Tim was so completely overcome by this little mark of recollection that he was quite unequal to any more conversation at that moment. Nicholas therefore slipped quietly out and went to Brother Charles's room. If he had previously sustained his firmness and fortitude, it had been by an effort which had cost him no little pain. But the warm welcome, the hearty manner, the homely, unaffected commiseration of the good old man went to his heart, and no inward struggle could prevent his showing it. Come, my dear sir," said the benevolent merchant, "we must not be cast down. No. We must learn to bear misfortune, and we must remember that there are many sources of consolation, even in death. Every day that this poor lad had lived, he must have been less and less qualified for the world, and more unhappy in his own deficiencies. It is better as it is, my dear sir. Yes, it is better as it is." "I have thought of all that, sir," replied Nicholas, clearing his throat. I feel it, I assure you. Yes, that's well, replied Mr. Cheeryble, who in the midst of all his comforting was quite as much taken aback as honest old Tim. That's well. Now, where is my brother Ned? Tim Linkinwater, sir? Where is my brother Ned? He's gone out with Mr. Trimmers to get that unfortunate man into the hospital and send in a nurse to his children, said Tim. Ah, my brother Ned is a fine fellow, a great fellow, exclaimed brother Charles, as he shut the door and returned to Nicholas. He will be overjoyed to see you, my dear sir. We have been speaking of you every day. To tell you the truth, sir, I am glad to find you alone, said Nicholas, with some natural hesitation, for I am anxious to say something to you. Can you spare me a very few moments? Surely, returned brother Charles, looking at him with an anxious countenance. Say on, my dear sir, say on. I scarcely know how or where to begin, said Nicholas. If ever one mortal had reason to be penetrated with love and reverence for another, with such attachment as he would make the hardest service in his behalf a pleasure and delight, with such grateful recollections as he might rouse the utmost zeal and fidelity of his nature, those are the feelings which I should entertain for you, and do, from my heart and soul. Believe me. I do believe you, sir, I do, replied the old gentleman, and I am happy in the belief. I have never doubted it, and I never shall. I'm sure I never shall. Your telling me that so kindly, said Nicholas, emboldens me to proceed. When you first took me into your confidence and dispatched me on those missions to Miss Madeline Bray, I should have told you that I had seen her long before, that her beauty had made an impression upon me that I could not efface, and that I had fruitlessly endeavoured to trace her and become acquainted with her history. I did not tell you, sir, because I vainly thought that I could conquer my weaker feelings and render every consideration subservient to my duty to you. Mr. Nickleby, said brother Charles, you did not violate that confidence which I placed in you, or took an unworthy advantage of it for one moment. I am sure you did not. I did not, said Nicholas firmly, although I found that necessity for self-command and restraint became every day more imperious, and the difficulty greater. I never for one instant or looked but as I would have done had you been by. I never for one moment deserted my trust, nor have I to this time. But I find, sir, that constant association and companionship with this sweet girl is fatal to my peace of mind, and may prove destructive to the resolutions I made in the beginning, and up to this time have faithfully kept. In short, sir, I cannot trust myself, and I implore and beseech you to remove this young lady from under the charge of my mother and sister without delay. Who can see her as I have seen? Who can know what her life has been, and not love her? I have no excuse for that. And as I cannot fly from this temptation, and cannot repress this passion with its object constantly before me, what can I do but pray you to remove it, and to leave me to forget her? Mr. Nickleby, said the old man after a short silence, you can do no more. I was wrong to expose a young man like you to this trial. I might have foreseen what would happen. Thank you, sir, thank you. Madeline shall be removed. If you would grant me one favour, dear sir, and suffer her to remember me with esteem, by never revealing to her this confession. I will take care, said Mr. Cheeryble. And now, is this all you have to tell me? No, returned Nicholas, meeting his eye, it is not. I know the rest, said Mr. Cheeryble, apparently very much relieved by this prompt reply. When did it come to your knowledge? When I reached home this morning. You felt it your duty immediately to come to me and tell me what your sister no doubt had acquainted you with? I did, said Nicholas, though I could have wished to have spoken to Mr. Frank first. Frank was with me last night, replied the old gentleman. You have done well, Mr. Nickleby, very well, sir, and I thank you again. Upon this head, Nicholas requested permission to add a few words. He ventured to hope that nothing he had said would lead to the estrangement of Kate and Madeline, who had formed an attachment for each other, any interruption of which would, he knew, be attended with great pain to them, and most of all with remorse and pain to him as its unhappy cause. When these things were all forgotten, he hoped that Frank and he might still be warm friends, and that no word or thought of his humble home, or of her who was well contented to remain there and share his quiet fortunes, would ever again disturb the harmony between them. To all this brother Charles listened in profound silence, and with his chair so turned from Nicholas that his face could not be seen. He had not spoken either in his accustomed manner, but with a certain stiffness and embarrassment very foreign to it. Nicholas feared that he had offended him. He said, No, you have done everything well. But that was all. Frank is a needless, heedless, foolish fellow, he said, after Nicholas had paused for some time. A very heedless, foolish fellow. Now, I will take care that this is brought to a close without delay. Let us say no more upon the subject. It is a very painful one to me. Come to me in half an hour. I have strange things to tell you, my dear sir, strange things. And your uncle has appointed this afternoon for your waiting upon him with me. Waiting upon him? With you, sir? Cried Nicholas. Aye, with me, replied the old gentleman. Return to me in half an hour, and I will tell you more. Nicholas waited upon him at the time mentioned, and then learnt all that had taken place on the previous day, and all that was known of the appointment Ralph had made with the brothers, which was for that night, and for the better understanding of which it will be requisite to return and follow Ralph's own footsteps to the house of the twin brothers. Therefore, we leave Nicholas somewhat reassured by the restored kindness of their manner towards him, and yet sensible that it was different from what it had been, though he scarcely knew in what respect. So he was full of uneasiness, uncertainty, and disquiet.